today we're here to discuss my leadership journey. I'm not that great at talking about myself, so I'll do a little bit of that and just talk about the overall leadership journey and some ideas that I have about it after being in it for over 2 decades. The super inspiring leader. So, your true challenge in leadership is engaging all aspects of self to reach your full potential. True leaders inspire others. There are four components to this: engaging all parts, developing inner resources, leading the team, setting the tone, and connecting with others. You'll notice at the center here is you, engaged, centered, and present. So I can restate these as you're going to reach to become your true best self while remaining grounded, aligned with your values, and on a solid foundation within your power. You'll head toward the vision that you've created, taking the first steps yourself while being connected on a human level to your team, who are then followed. In developing inner resources, this includes stress tolerance, emotional self awareness, emotional expression, and flexibility. In a difficult work environment, when you don't have these skills mastered, you'll probably hear people say things like, I'm frustrated, I'm overworked, I'm not satisfied, I'm not happy with what's going on here. And there's common causes of these indicators, which include the workload, perceived lack of control, lack of reward and recognition, poor relationships, lack of support is a big one in the corporate environment, especially for managers and leaders, and a values mismatch between the person and the corporation and what the objectives are. To assess and correct these, it's important as an individual that you take a step back and really check in with yourself and how things are going and focus your effort on the important tasks that are within your area of control. Set your personal and professional boundaries, and this is difficult for people to do. Uh, Also, important to build in time to de-stress and rest. Often we put others before ourselves. Connecting with others, humility, listening, empathy, and assisting others in developing their career. In the transition from star performer to star leader, you begin to develop and apply a different skill set. The most critical of these is your ability to develop and maintain that connection with other people. Now, when you're new to the role and just building relationships, you may feel you can't communicate or these people aren't listening to me. And it's critical to ask at these times, like, number one, what is the level of trust in this organization? Do these people trust me? Do these people trust the company? Do I trust them? So how do you build this type of connection? Well, you ask and you trust your people. You talk to them and interact with them. And if you commit to something, you follow up and actually do what you said you were going to do. So when you're listening, it's not just about hearing their words, it's about really listening to what they're saying and beyond what they're saying to what they're actually communicating to you. Setting the tone, recognition, balance, unselfishness, and shared ambition. Uh, your employees observe you and your behavior in the workplace. And you may not even notice, but when you're in the workplace, you're on all the time. You're being observed all the time. They're going to learn from you and they're going to model your behavior. So it's important that you're aware of things like, when was the last time I appreciated one of my employees when I saw them do something good? Uh, and, you know, when was the last time you were appreciated? Maybe that's not happening for you. So if it doesn't happen for me, how do I help someone else? Uh, when employees watch you in the workplace, what do they see you doing? What do they hear you say about your organization and your peers? So when you're on your foundation and grounded, uh, you're leading by example. And this is where others begin to follow you. Leading the team, direction, giving them the focus to do the important task that we need to deal with right now, having a vision, a compelling vision that everyone can get on board with, and sponsoring others. so that they can also achieve their career aspirations. So, what you're actually doing here as a leader is developing the ability to see the future when no one else can. This is called being a visionary. Organizations have goals, objectives, strategies, and agenda. Your role as the leader is to take your portion of these items and break them down into manageable parts. And then you're going to help the employees understand their specific role in making these big picture things happen. So the question that you need to answer here for each employee, how does my work fit into the bigger picture? And once they understand this, getting buy-in, are they on board? And then are we all aligned and headed in the same direction? Now you have a golden opportunity with your employees. As you get to know them and learn that they have aspirations and goals, you'll want to understand these because you can begin to align employees with opportunities. You can support others in their growth and development just as someone supported you. And this allows you to really form the team that can then accomplish amazing things in the workplace that no individual could do on their own. A note on culture. You will be asked to change culture. Changing corporate culture draws on management skills in an intense way. It's important to have well-established leadership capabilities and healthy relationships at all levels of the organization when you set out to change culture. What does an organization do when they set out to change culture? They bring in new leaders. They bring in people who represent the change they want to see in the organization. They brought in you. Organizations are ever changing and adapting, and this is mostly done through business strategy. Now, strategies often fail. Some statistics: 48% of organizations fail to meet at least half of their strategic targets. And studies indicate 60 to 90% of strategic plans never fully launch. So why does strategy fail? Well, first, strategy fails because leaders fail to plan properly. Secondly, strategy fails because leaders fail to support the people affected by the changes. And strategy fails because when strategy and culture disagree, culture always wins. So what do we do about this? Well, we go back to the frontline employees. We begin to understand what they're dealing with. We ask really good questions, and then we design strategy that takes that into consideration. When you design bottom-up strategy, those are winning strategies. You have buy-in before the idea came about because the idea came from the people that it matters to most. I have a few questions here that I'll answer, and then I have a question for you. Uh, and then one more slide. We'll see maybe what you can ask me, because the benefit of having me on the call, I think, is how can I help you? What is the question that you need answered? So the ones that have come to me already: do I have any career regrets? Uh, no, I don't have any regrets. I had an exciting career. I loved what I did, and I would have done a lot of my work for free, but I never would have told the company that I would have done it for free. Um, I loved what I did. So everything that I've been through has made me the person that I am today. And you know, life is about experiences, and I've had a lot of them. So, uh, and that question came out too. What would I tell a younger version of myself if I was able to go back in time? Slow down and have more experiences. So the most important commodity that we have is time. You can't create more time. So yeah, my advice to a younger self: slow down, have more experiences along the way. Um, how do I envision leadership development in the next 10 years? Okay, so we're seeing what I consider to be a leadership crisis right now. So the return of the command and control style of management occurred rapidly in the last 3 to 4 years. So things are out of balance. And, as the old saying goes, the pendulum swings. So now is the time to build leadership skills and capabilities, because there's going to be opportunities that come out of this. And as they say, there's no such thing as luck. So luck is simply where opportunity meets preparedness. So there is a shift happening in leadership. There's a whole group of new people that you're working with there, and there's going to be opportunity out of this. The thing that you need to do is be prepared, develop your skills, and draw up the experience that you have to move forward. So, next question, any advice for aspiring leaders who work in a fragile and demanding system? Uh, all right. It's important that you find your intrinsic motivation and align with it. So there's different types of motivation. There's achievement oriented motivation. These people are typically motivated by the feeling they get from achievement, earning, accomplishing things. Intrinsic motivation is inside, it's within self. Extrinsic motivation are external things that you value that contribute to your sense of significance. This could be a title. Relationship orientation means that you get your sense of significance from relationships and interactions with others. Now, when you build up uh, a line and draw from intrinsic motivation, you're driven by internal factors that no one can take away from you. There's no external pressure or reward for the actions and behaviors that you perform. So it's a long lasting motivation and it leads to higher levels of success. When you align with it, you're following your own internal compass, and this makes you a very powerful leader. So, in a difficult work environment, I would dig in and find out why am I here and what did I set out to do and what can I draw up so that I can go and make a difference with my efforts here. That's what I would do. So I see one here. It says, have you ever experienced a fear of missing out at any point in your career? Um, and I think this touches on competition. So let's say you come up through the organization with peers and you may be friends or just people that you've come through with. And as you move through and advance, there's fewer positions that you can get into. So that means that some people are going to get promoted and others are not. So you're going to pour all of this energy and effort into what you're doing, and you're going to be very good at what you do. And you may not be the successful candidate. So sometimes you can definitely feel like you miss out. Um, now, it, I didn't really focus on competing with others. I focused on competing with myself. What I tried to do was every year improve on what I had done and have new experiences. And early in my career, I worked with people and I watched people who repeated the same day of their life and the same year of their life over and over again. It was like Groundhog Day. They didn't learn anything new. Um, and I couldn't do it. I was always looking for opportunity to learn and grow. So, because I focused on, in a way, competing with self, I looked away from what that person got compared to what I'm getting. And I actually did a lot better than many of my peers, well enough to the fact that they started to spread rumors around me being related to the CEO of the company, which wasn't true. So there's some power, I think, in compete with self, do better than you did last year, and see how far that takes you. Another question that came up, how do you keep motivated in times where you're stressed out and want to give up? So some of the hardest hits I had in leading people, you get to know your employees on a personal level, and you can't help but get attached to them when you've known these people for 20 years and work with them. Occasionally, you're going to have things happen like a unexpected terminal illness that comes up. So helping employees and employees' families through those type of things were a great deal of stress for me. And it really made me question, like, what are we doing here? Can I keep going? Um, so what do I do when I feel stressed out? I have habits that help me, like working out regularly, making sure that I spend times outdoors in nature. And those things really carried me. And the other thing is recognize the fact that you're human. And that means that sometimes it's okay for me to have a bad day. And if you're going to have a bad day, you just decide Am I going to have a bad day at work, or am I going to take a day off and take care of myself? So determine where you're going to be when you have a bad day, because everyone has them. Okay. Um, I'm just looking at the questions here. Have you experienced, yeah. How do you manage being burnt out? Oh, I think um, when I had probably 10 years of good solid experience under me, the company started putting me on special projects. So I had a large group of employees, over 200. There was two different bargaining agents, two different unions. There was three levels of management beneath me, between me and the employees. I had developed relationships with all of them, and they relied on me when there was something going on. They wanted to communicate with me, and I set it up that way on purpose because I wanted to know what was going on, because that enabled me to help make the most significant changes in the organization. Now, the company started giving me projects, and one of the projects they put me on was collective bargaining. So I'm now working with, I have my day job, all of my employees, the customer concerns, everything I need to do there. And I'm traveling 2 weeks out of the month to head office to support collective bargaining with the largest union in the country. Um, so I was burnt out. And it got to the point where it wasn't just um, temporary burnout, it was a state of consistently operating in burnout and not having a way out because the work continued to come. Um, and I didn't recognize it at first. So it really took stepping back, setting in personal boundaries, starting to say no to things, and refocusing on what was the most important thing for me and what I needed to be doing in my role. And it was a bit of bit of a surprise to my boss when I started to say no to things. A lot of bosses don't like it when you say no to them, but you have to set boundaries, especially when you're responsible for a large group, 24/7 operation, high stress environment. Um, and the company starts wanting to take you and give more work to you. So uh, the key to burnout is recognizing the symptoms, and I haven't gotten there yet, but in preparing for this presentation, I had written a few articles that I wanted to share with you. So what I've done is I put them into a booklet that you can download, and I'll give you the link. You'll get a copy of the presentation. In this booklet, it talks about, is there a cure for burnout? So you might want to take a look at that. There is definitely a cure, and the most important thing is recognizing when you're there so that you can take corrective action. Even better is recognizing when you're headed into burnout and preventing it rather than sliding into that slope and condition. Okay, next question. How do you come up with your fascinating plans in accomplishment due to wrong expectation of stakeholders, lack of support from, oh, like lack of budget? Yes. Or bureaucracy? Yeah. Uh, how do you manage to achieve your plans? Well, when you're a leader in an organization, they're not all your plans. You have to remain aligned with what the organization is asking of you. First thing I had to do was get the employees aligned and understand what we had. So there was a lot of what you call norms and assumptions. So workplace norm is we do it this way because we've always done it, and that's the right way to do it. So there was no experimentation. There was no discussion of getting better. Head office would say, well, this is happening because they're a bunch of idiots and they don't know what they're doing, which is not true. So I had to bring everyone together to a new understanding of what was going on and then draw the recipe of how we were going to fix it. And the number one problem that we had was no resources, no support, and everyone wanted to look the other way because it was embarrassing. So it's difficult to sit down with your boss and tell them, I need more people. I can't get the work done that you're asking of me with the resources that I have. That's a hard problem to fix. And it took us decades to fix it. It took me going out of the country and bringing in recruits which, was unheard of until it happened. So bureaucracy, what do I do with it? It's just like rumors. Call it what it is. Uh, it's easy as a leader, as a manager, to get tied up with what I call unnecessary administrative tasks. So when you're in a high stress, high paced environment like you are, you have a lot of things that you can do, and you're going to be pulled in 10 different ways. Um, and some of the things that you need to do are there because the organization needs them for an administrative reason. So this is where you get really good at delegating. Find resources that can help you get those things done so that you can focus on what you're really good at. So if you can't get the most expensive resource, come up with a way to come up with a less expensive resource who can help you with some of those tasks that take you away from the important work that you could be doing. But bottom line, you have to be really good at managing your boss and communicating with your boss so that you can get the resources that you need. In an organization, the boss's role is to make sure that you have the resources that you need. So then it's all a matter of how do I craft this message in a way that I can get their support. So this is where strategy works. If you develop a plan for communicating, developing a clear understanding of what's really happening, and then getting support to address that issue, that's where the power of strategy comes in. I hope I've answered the question there. And, this slide, Ilunta may factor in there. I don't know if this is a real issue for you. I was kind of dying to know how it fit in. Um, But if we're concerned on a societal and cultural level with how we're perceived by others and doing the right thing, it can get in the way of those difficult conversations that we need to have that'll make a real difference in our organization and in people's working lives. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming up, so I'm just going to go to this slide here. So a copy of the presentation will be provided to you after. It has more detailed slides that have more bullets in it that I couldn't cover today. So I've also created the booklet that I've mentioned to you. And in the booklet, I've added 3 articles. 10 things you need to know starting out, 10 rules to increase your chances of success, why one curious professional fails and another succeeds. So burnout is the one that you're needing that I can find, and I will send that to you in your hand. So there's a link on the slide. You can grab a copy of that booklet there if you're interested. Today, I argued that leadership centers around you. When you step into a leadership role, those around you grow only to the capacity that you do. So you have to shore up and understand why you're doing what you're doing, and then really focus on the most important things that you can do and set the boundaries that allow you to keep your focus on your area of control. Many people spend their time operating in what we call the area of influence, where you're trying to influence others to do things for you, but focus on your area of control, your role, and that'll help you be more successful in your career long term.
Like you have been staying in a complex system, and you have that experience of solving complex and difficult problems. So what was the secret ingredient in solving complex issues in any sector? This is my first question. The second one, even it has been mentioned about the burnout several times. Because there is high burden of in your area, there is high burden of interaction with customers, being internal or external. Due to that, there may be high burnout rate in the industry as well as in the health sector. When we face the same problem because of several reasons. So how do you manage those individuals who or how do you diagnose them at first, your staff, when they are in burnout stage or when they are stressed, and what were you doing to alleviate that problem and to create that environment which is um, thinking that this is my job, I like my job and I have to do it, and always being happy. So these are the two questions I would like to pose. And if anyone from the group have question, because as already mentioned, Greg is more of listeners than uh, expressing things. So I think through question, we can have more experience, take a lot from you. So these are my two questions.
Okay, and the first one, how do you solve those complex problems? So, um,
What was the secret and how do you develop that solving problem solving ability?
within your organization, you have um, a structure of experts. You have people who have been doing their job for a significant amount of time, and every one of them has an idea about what could be done better. So when I took over that most difficult role of my career, the turnaround operation, the thing I did was sit down with every employee and I asked them 4 questions. And I wrote down their answers. And I took all of that information to put it down together and figure out what are the things that we could create wins out of. So then, and as a leader, part of your job is to help create a win. You know, when you're watching your team suffer, when you're watching them lose their motivation, they don't want to be there anymore. Um, you can relate that to being on a losing team and the energy is just being drawn out of you. So how do you shift that? Well, understand what they're going through, observe what's happening, and find ways to create wins. So you draw in, you don't have to have every answer yourself as leader. And in fact, I believe it's impossible for one person to have all of the answers. So the power actually comes from the ability to have other people share with you what they feel is important and what would actually help. Not all of the ideas are going to be good, but if you take the time to invest in that conversation and then act on it, this is where you start to build up the framework of a team that can accomplish anything, a high performing team. So it starts with conferring with the experts. And if you don't see your employees as experts, that may be an error, that may be a mistake. Um, and you know, if you want to streamline a process, the most important person you can find is someone who is very proficient in their role and lazy. Those are the people who are going to find you efficiencies and you can learn from them. Um, so every one of those employees that you have has a benefit. So the next question was, uh, what do I do when I see the team burning out? When you see an individual who's struggling, uh, and there's important times to intervene. So again, this is the kind of capability that comes in when you've worked with a team for a while and you're really developing your leadership capabilities. So you start to notice patterns in the workplace and you can start to observe where there's flows. There's times when people get buried and they can't handle a lot, their resilience is low. And then there's times where the energy is high and you can give them almost anything and they can accomplish it. So the key as a leader is to know, when can I inject a new change into this system and when should I back off and allow them time to rest. So if you're always fighting and pushing, you're not going to get as far as you would if you actually took a day and stopped and just walked around and said thank you. So uh, now people, when you're managing people, you're going to learn all kinds of things. You're going to learn things that you may not want to know. um, but everyone has their own unique experience, and all of those unique points of view and experiences can be powerful if you're able to learn from that and put some of that knowledge into motion, apply it in being a leader to help the team move further. So a lot of people don't recognize when they're getting burned out. They will verbalize it. You'll hear them complaining. And this draws other people down in the workplace. So you should listen to what's happening in the workplace. One of the biggest draws on energy in the workplace is things like rumors and the negative talk about the company. So for a while, what I used to do, and you want to be careful with this, but for a while, what I used to do in staff meetings was I would start with the rumors. What are the rumors you're hearing? What's the word on the street? So they would lay the rumors out. The ones I could address and answer, I would. The ones I couldn't, I would say, let me look into that and see what I can find out. Now, the funny thing about rumors is they're usually 50% true. So that's why they have credibility, because sometimes they're true, and that's why people share them. But those draw energy and bring that real negative undertow and feeling to the workplace. So if your employees are burnt out, what are they saying behind closed doors? You know, where are your unofficial leaders, and what are your unofficial leaders doing? Do you know who they are? Um, these are the kind of things you're going to want to watch for, and you'll learn with time. I see another question has come up. How can one effectively navigate the issue of limited scope in a leadership position, especially when faced with situations that require going beyond the assigned boundaries and avoid potential conflicts with superiors? If there's one mistake I made in my career, it's this. I minimized my capabilities so I didn't make my bosses look bad, because bosses have fragile egos. Uh, I believe that it's important for you, when you're standing on your foundation within your power, that you are talking about and doing those things that you're capable of doing. So, yes, you be respectful. Yes, you have boundaries in your role, and you can probably do more. Um, in fact, I will say that you don't know what you're capable of doing yet. So push those boundaries in a respectful way, and that will show up. If you're doing it in a positive way that's aligned with an overall positive change for the organization, you're going to stand out as a star performer. So the intent behind how you go about doing that is important. If you're intending to make a positive difference and make the workplace better, you're going to be uh, in a good position. If you intend to win and get ahead of everyone else, it might be more of a struggle for you. So by all means, step out of your limited scope, learn as much as you can, see how far you can push the boundaries of your role. And when you get bigger than your role, make sure that you get compensated for what you're doing.
We have one person who raised a hand. I
Okay.
don't know. It says Samsung, so Samsung, please take the floor.
Thank you, sir. My question is as follows. As a leader, you can have many new ideas, uh, many new inspiring ideas, and those people who have new ideas are mostly not welcomed and they are strangers to the team. So, how could you bring your new visions and your new ideas to the implementation? And what should you take to make your team or your people to listen to your new ideas and to follow your vision?
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
yeah, it broke up a little bit there, but we're asking about new ideas. How do we take and introduce new ideas, and how do we get buy-in for our new ideas? So um, this is about planting seeds, uh, and you're going to have people within this group that are ahead of their time, meaning you can see things 2 years ahead of other people. And it can be a difficult place to be, because I can tell that this is where we're going to end up if we don't do something different. But I see that if we make this change, it can be different for everyone. So how do you introduce that you plant seeds, you begin to talk about it, you introduce the ideas, and maybe be prepared for the fact that as you do this, um, people may not fully understand your idea when you first introduce it. Uh, but down the road, I guarantee you that there's going to be someone who takes your idea and puts it in motion and maybe forgets that it came from you. They're going to act like it was their own. And that's the difficult thing with being the creative individual in the team. You're going to see what's coming, you're going to have an idea on how to fix it, you're going to communicate it. Eventually people are going to understand and arrive where you are. And then it's going to pick up steam and get into motion. So sometimes you may get credit for that, and sometimes you may not. Um, just be prepared for the fact that there's going to be people that in the work environment that will take credit for the ideas that you planted. So plant them like seeds, talk about them, get input from other people, and help them grow.
Okay, one question come on the chat. What are some effective strategies that you recommend leaders can use to manage conflicts and resolve disputes within their teams? Additionally, can you share your own experience or insights on this topic?
Okay, so we're talking about the same work environment, the turnaround operation. In this environment, uh, traditionally, the way people dealt with things was they would take a walk to the parking lot. So this is a toxic male trait where they would want to go fight in the parking lot to deal with a workplace conflict. Um, and I remember times in my career where I would walk out into the hallway from my office to go and do something, and I would see a supervisor with the manager pinned up against the wall, and they were almost ready to fight things out in the workplace. That was their traditional way of dealing with things, which had to change. It's not professional, was not acceptable. So a big part of this is you as a leader showing people how to manage conflict in a different way. And really resolving conflict is all about understanding unique perspectives, recognizing that there's going to be differences and agreeing to move forward somehow, even though we disagree. Um, Now, with the gross I'm struggling for a word with the times where people really stepped out and got physical or angry and yelling and throwing things in the workplace. Those people were disciplined. Um, you know, I didn't enjoy that part of management. I was good at it, and I did it when I had to. And if you look at it like you're going to develop a set of tools, so sometimes our tool may be the scalpel that we use in the operating room. Sometimes our tool is coaching and listening. Sometimes our tool is discipline. And you want to be good at all of them. The trick for you is knowing what is the right time and place for this tool and reaching for the correct one when that problem stands in front of you. So sometimes there's employees who cannot manage themselves and they need to head down that road of discipline. And the idea with that is you're going to give that employee every opportunity you can to change. And it's up to them because you can't actually force people to change as much as we would like to. Ultimately, with those people, if they don't change, they end up without a job. But the focus is give this employee every opportunity you can to change. Um, so I'm a proponent of management by walking around. Be present in the workplace. When you see something happen, let's say, for example, you see people yelling at each other in the hallway and you're a leader, you're a manager. You don't just walk by and pretend it didn't happen. You have to stop and ask what's going on and make sure they know you paid attention. And in some cases, you may want to help lead them through a conversation to resolve that conflict in a constructive way so it doesn't fester. So high pressure environments, like we worked in 24/7, shift work short on people, all kinds of extra work coming our way all the time. People would get to the point where they were burnt out and there was flare-ups. And one of the most common questions I used to get like going out in the public and talking with people, or presenting to customers, or just telling a relative what I did, the first question I always got was, "Oh, isn't air traffic control the most stressful job in the world?" And I used to say, "No, it's not really that bad." But the truth of it is, our stress level was here all the time. Uh, and we were just used to it because we were immersed in it, just like you are. You're immersed in it all the time, so it becomes your normal. The problem with that is there's no capacity. If anything else goes wrong, I'm now over my limit. I'm over the edge, right? So in your work environment, you're going to see tempers flare. You're going to see people who can't manage their own emotion and they try and take it out on someone else. Um, yeah, and the key there is, if you see it, get involved, model healthy behavior. If it's repetitive, that employee has to understand how to change.